Presented nicely. Hardwood versus softwood. What grows better mushrooms? You'd think it would be hardwood fuel pellets, but I don't know. I get some pretty good yields out of these softwood. So we're going to put it to the test today. I have Traeger oak fuel pellets here. These are the only oak fuel pellets I could find in New Zealand. The only hardwood fuel pellets I could, actually no, I could find more, but they're all of the same brand, the Traeger brand here. Now these are made in the glorious United States of America. So I like to think that's a pretty good quality hardwood fuel pellet there. Oak, I'd take a guess, maybe American oak. White oak, do they call it? I'm not too sure, and we've got over here softwood fuel pellets. Now these are made in New Zealand. These are from our Pinus Radiata species, which grows everywhere here in the country. It's actually almost a pest. It gets well out of control and starts taking over big amounts of countryside. I think it drops the pine needles and it basically kills everything else around it. It might even be a protected species in California, I don't know, don't quote me on that. So these are softwood fuel pellets. This is a New Zealand based company. I've spoken to these guys on the phone, they're really lovely to deal with. This is actually an organic wood pellet as well. They're sustainably harvested, they get them, they process them with heat and then they pelletize it. This comes in a 20 kilo bag. This comes in a 9 kilo bag. Why on earth do you make a 9 kilo bag? Do you know why? Because it's actually 20 pound. Who on earth uses pounds? Someone tell me. So we're going to have 9 bags of these because this is only a 9 kilo bag. And we're going to have 12 bags of these, which equal 21. Then we'll inoculate them with the same species, we'll throw them out the back, we'll incubate them for 2 weeks, and we will get them into fruiting. What's going to be better, the American made or the New Zealand made? Oh. American's actually looking quite trim there, eh? Even losing weight, America. Kiwis are put on a bit pounded. Ooh. I think these ones are often made for smokers, so you can, yeah, there's a pizza on the front of it, right? There's a bloody picture of a pizza. So, food grade, if you can call smoking chips food grade, I suppose that's good. I don't quite think you'd use New Zealand pine to smoke your pizza. Might taste like pineapple pizza. So we're all bagged up and we are ready to sterilize. Now, the substrate mix I've gone for is known as Master's Mix. Master's Mix was coined by a guy called T.R. Davis from Earth Angel Mushrooms. If you haven't seen his channel, I suggest you really check it out. When I was getting into mushrooms, I watched all of his videos. They're really informative, really educational. And he invented the Master's Mix. The Master's Mix is 50% hardwood fuel pellets and 50% soy hull. So that's what I've got in these hardwood bags. I have mixed them 50% by volume, not by weight. The wood pellets actually weigh slightly more. So it's 50% by volume soy hull and 50% by volume hardwood fuel pellets in the Master's Mix bags. In the softwood bags here, I have actually named them, for the purpose of this video, Student's Mix, because it's very similar to the Master's Mix, but you're just replacing the hardwood fuel pellets with softwood fuel pellets. That's the only difference. And it's still done at 50-50 by volume. I don't know if the original Master's Mix was by weight or by volume. I'm pretty sure it's by volume. So for the point of this, Student's Mix here on the left, Master's Mix here on the right, we'll get them sterilized and we'll see what the difference is in the yields that they produce. So our barrel's full, our sterilizer's on, and we will get these as free from contamination as possible. So we're in my lab. My barrel here was sterilized for about 24 hours and it's had a number of days to cool down just outside here. After it's cool, I then roll it into my lab here and we will open it in the lab and start inoculating. I'm going to inoculate at a rate of about 2%. I've got some grains sitting there. I inoculate it with my trusty spoon, do like a good spoon. And after we inoculate, we're going to get them through to the incubation. We will incubate them for about 15 days. For this experiment, I'm using Phoenix oyster, which is a common oyster mushroom grown in New Zealand. It is the most common one generally grown here. And it's a pretty good commercial species. Produces usually pretty good quality mushrooms. really uniform, easy to harvest, easy to package, and easy to present to the customer. We're in my incubation room. On the left here we have the master's mix, and on the right here we have the student's mix. Now it's been 10 days, and both of these blocks have a really nice covering of mycelium all over them. That's the master's mix there with the hardwood, and this is the student's mix here with the softwood. On both of them, the mycelium colonised at pretty much the exact same speed. You couldn't tell any difference between the two. It was easier to see the mycelium movement on the hardwood species just because the substrate was slightly darker than the softwood substrate. And the top looks very similar on both, with a wee covering of fluffy mycelium. I'm not seeing any primordial formation or pinning yet, but that might start soon. The Phoenix oyster, which is a species we're growing on here, does have a habit of pinning early in the bags. So we're going to give this another few days. We are 13 days in here, and the colonisation is looking really good. There is one major difference, and that is a few of these hardwood bags have started really ferociously pinning across the top. That's after 13 days. I normally try and hold them off for 14 or 15 days. My softwood blocks here haven't got any pinning as of yet on top. Maybe just the very beginning of it. But a couple of these hardwood blocks, see, that one doesn't. A couple of these hardwood blocks does have considerable pinning, and I don't know if that's maybe been jolted and the mycelium's pinning, or these ones on the end here, maybe they've been exposed to the colder air of the fan, which has caused more of a temperature fluctuation. Yeah, if I look back around the edge there, back into them, you can actually see a number of them have started pinning. So there could also be a more of an availability of a certain type of food which the mycelium likes to eat in the hardwood, that's causing it to be ready to fruit sooner. My softwood blocks, I've got to be very careful not to fruit these too early. If you fruit these at, like, let's say 11 or 12 days when they're covered in mycelium, they won't grow very good mushrooms. They'll grow very, very small mushrooms, and the cap will turn out, it'll curl up very quickly. And you don't get those big, good sized, deep coloured mushrooms that you might then get on the second flush. So that's why I generally like to hold off to about that 15-day mark, just to give it that extra time. And I think that drastically increases the quality of the first flush on softwood. I don't know about hardwood. This is the first time I've actually grown on hardwood. So you can see a comparison of the two. That's hardwood over on the left here, and that's softwood on the right. You can see, I don't know how well you can see in the footage, you can see there's little pins all over it and wee mushrooms up here. There's none on the softwood species, and I can't see a block in there on softwood that has that yet, but I can see probably, you know, 3 or 4 of the hardwood that have that. There's a few that don't yet. So it's Wednesday and we've incubated for 15 days. I'm not too happy with my timing for this. These hardwood ones have ferociously started pinning in the bags here. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't put them in my fruiting room earlier because it means the harvest, which is going to be harvested for a farmer's market, will be ready too early in the week. And if it's ready too early in the week, it means I cut them and I fridge them. And by the time you get them to the farmer's market, they may have been in the fridge for 3 or 4 days, and they're not quite looking as good as those fresh mushrooms which we like. So I do prefer to hold my bags off, even if they are pinning. Some of the bags aren't too bad, like this is a hardwood one here, and the pins have just started on top, but overall it's not too bad. And most of the softwood ones haven't started pinning too badly either. That's a softwood one there, and it's just got the pins starting on top here, but it's not too bad. Not like this one which has always been on the edge, and this has got some big chunks of mycelium already building. But we'll open that up in the fruiting room anyway and see if that stops and some fresh mushrooms grow out where we open it up. It's Tuesday and the mushrooms have been out there for 6 days now. We'll go in and have a look. Now I am a little disappointed. The pinning wasn't as good as I'd hoped, especially on the softwood bags. The hardwood bags are pinned real nicely. I think a culprit of that might have been the weather we've had lately. It's been really up and down. It's probably our 22 here today. A couple of 2 days ago it was 29 degrees here, and then about 2 days before that it was 12 degrees. So we've got temperature shifts from 12 to 29 over the course of about 2 days, as these guys out here were trying to pin, which if you guys know about my farm, I don't use a preconditioning room, and because of that we're getting some pretty wild temperature fluctuations in there, and it makes it hard to be precise. But we'll go in and we'll have a look. We'll see how they're going. So this is what we're looking like after 6 days. How it goes: this row here is softwood, hardwood, softwood, hardwood. Initially they might look very similar, but there are a few differences here. The hardwood flushes are all extremely consistent, and I mean very consistent. They have a lot of caps, they are all a deep dark colour, very good quality. The softwood consistency isn't quite as high. You can see bags like this one and this one all have a much lower count of caps, but a lot of the caps are larger and more advanced. If we were to take the top two up on the right, for example, it would be almost impossible to tell the difference between a softwood and a hardwood. But the consistency just wasn't there. Another problem we've had is you can see the giant amounts of mycelial buildup inside some of these blocks. This one down here especially. Now that's because the hardwood started pinning very early, a lot earlier than the softwood. So I think it's caused a large amount of wasted energy. The bags which have the best pin sets are the ones who didn't have as much early pinning in the bags. I'm incredibly impressed with the performance of the hardwood, but it is 4 times the price. We'll give these another couple of days until they're ready for harvest and have another look. So it's Thursday morning and the first flushes from the softwood blocks are looking like they're about due to be harvested. So we're going to go in there, check them out, and if they are ready, take them off and give them away. There are the flushes as it stands right now. You can see this softwood flush here and here are both ready for harvesting. The larger mushrooms of the one on the left here are just starting to curl around the edges, and that's a sign that the quality is about to decrease. In fact, the quality of those larger mushrooms has already decreased slightly. This larger one on the right here, the quality is looking really good. There's some larger mushrooms there amongst some smaller ones, but that's just how that flush started. The hardwood flushes are looking alright, but they have aborted a lot of pins. Now maybe I cut the holes too large. Again, it's my first time growing with hardwood, so I'm learning here. It's weighing in at 0.71 kg without any trimming. What I do now is I'll just go and cut the excess off. We're cutting it down to mushrooms like that there. So if you look at these are all really high quality wee mushrooms there. And this is on softwood pine. I don't actually do this here. I do all my trimming at the farmer's market. So I try and package them, and I just take these off the blocks as they are, put them in my containers, fridge them straight away, and then at the market I actually trim them all down. And it gives me something to do, and it gives the customers something to look at. They come over and see what I'm doing. You do get a little bit of wood chip on them, but that's fine. Just tell your customers that there's occasional bits of wood chip on them. And there it is. That is about 600 grams of sellable mushroom in really good condition of the first flush of softwood. That's some of the wastage there, and it's just the big chunks of mycelium where it connected to the block. Big ones like this are good mushrooms. That was one of the largest on that block there, and you can see the edges are starting to frill. By the end of play today, this mushroom would have degraded in quality. so it was prime time for that one. As you can see, the frilling there, I don't like them getting any worse than that. Now let's weigh block number 2. .652 kilo for the next flush after the trimming has been done. Friday morning, went to bed last night thinking all those mushrooms will be prime for harvest in the morning. Just went and had a look and they're all slightly overgrown. It gets you. Gets every mushroom grower. But they're still good. They're still going to be delicious and we're going to harvest them now and get them all ready for the market tomorrow. There we are. You can see that's a softwood there. That's a hardwood. It's not grown very well at all. That's a hardwood. Good. It's a hardwood. Good. Softwood. 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 Hardwood. Hardwood. Hardwood not grown very well. You can see these ones here are slightly overgrown. You can see just how frilly they've come under here. This one here stayed real small and the edges are almost serrated. So I don't know what's exactly happened to that guy. This one here, this big mushroom's real frilly, but these little ones around here are really nice and really good in prime condition. This hardwood here is overgrown probably slightly. You can see how it's gotten a bit frilly. This is the hardwood here. Again, it's serrated. It hasn't packed on size, but they've serrated really quickly. This hardwood below it's a bit better. You can see it's nice mushrooms on there. This one here is a softwood and it's overgrown. It should look at this one on the top. I mean, I wouldn't probably sell that mushroom there. Just a bit too past its prime. And this one here, yeah, again, it's just not packing on weight. The mushrooms are staying real small, so I don't know what's gone on with that. So this is a softwood, and there's some fairly nice mushrooms coming off that. If you break them off individually, you can see. That's 0.665 from a softwood. When they get a bit overgrown, they get quite brittle. 0.645. Although there looks to be a lot more mushrooms here, the weight isn't actually that much heavier, which leads me to believe they've gotten bigger, but they haven't actually packed on any weight. We're going to get the first of these hardwood blocks now. What I have noticed on the hardwood is a lot of the mushrooms stay small and they get a bit of a serrated edge under them, and I'm not too sure why that is exactly. That's 0.625 kilo without trimmed, so that's well under currently. 0.530 for the first of the hardwoods. Here's one of the better performing hardwoods. Oh yeah, that's banging over a kilo. 1.01 kilo without trimming. So we should get 800 grams off this. This is a hardwood. 0.860 kilos. Now it's slightly past its prime. It should have been harvested probably in the middle of the night would have been ideal. The temperature is fluctuating a lot here, and some nights I think it's going to get down to the under 10 degrees, and last night it didn't do that, so the mushrooms actually grew quite a lot throughout the night. 0.755 kilos off a hardwood. 0.67 kilos for hardwood. 0.605 for hardwood. So that's first flushes from hardwood and softwood. What about second flushes on softwood? Well, we've got a couple ready to harvest now, so we'll just harvest those and weigh them and just see what that the second flush on pine looks like. So this is a second flush here. Now I mentioned before I don't like the frills, and you can see this one's gotten very frilly over here. Second flush mushrooms always produce a dramatically better quality, in my opinion, on pine. I should have harvested these last night, ideally probably quite late last night, but I haven't. You can see some of them, like that one there, is really good. But some of these big ones here have just curled up at the ends. Now they're still very much sellable and they're very delicious. The main thing you notice is a real reduction in shelf life. There goes a pine second flush, coming in at 0.315 kilograms. There goes the weight of another second flush, 0.2 kilos. That's 0.32 kilograms off a second flush. There goes another 0.32 off a second flush. So it's Sunday and I'm just doing a few chores and tidying up from yesterday at the market. You'll quickly learn with mushroom growing that you actually have to work pretty much every day of the week. Now I didn't film the last of the harvests yesterday morning. This is because I had to get to that market. I had to get up early, do the last of the harvest and get to that market. So I didn't have time to do any filming. So I've just jotted down the final scores. Now believe it or not, we had two quite bad hardwood flushes. The three I recorded here are a 0.625, a 0.420 and a 0.405. which is 400 grams on a first flush on the hardwood. The 3 additional softwoods are recorded as a 0.535, a 0.425, which is low, and a 0.655, which is alright. And I've also got 3 additional second flushes recorded here. A 0.440, which is a second flush pine, which is actually higher than those 2 poor first flushes from the hardwood. And a 0.220, which is alright, and a 0.305. So we'll throw all these numbers together and we'll just have a look at them now. Firstly, if you're wondering where my other softwood blocks went, I actually sold a couple, so they weren't there for the test. Now, I don't really think number 7 and 8 is a good representation of what hardwood is capable of, so I'm going to cross those off the list. I'm also going to cross off number 6 for the softwood, because that was a poor performer as well. So the average for the hardwood equals 0.674 grams, and the average for the softwood equals 0.62 grams. The second flush average for softwood came in at 0.377 grams. So after all of that, there's about a 54 gram difference on average between the hardwood and softwood. Now, did you expect more? Potentially. I didn't really expect more. I knew softwood is actually a fairly good performer for those oyster species. Some of those blocks there weren't the greatest example, and I did actually think whether or not to reshoot the whole experiment, just because the consistency wasn't there, and it wasn't as consistent as I like it to be. And so it actually got me thinking, why isn't the consistency there? What changes sometimes, and what makes some bags ferociously pin and others are really good right up until I put them in the fruiting room? And I thought about it, and I thought maybe it's because I'm not mixing the bags enough. I dump in the wood pellets and then the soy hull on top, and then sterilise them, inoculate them and seal them, and I shake them up a bit, but not a heck of a lot. And so if we're getting situations where there's a big layer of hardwood above a big layer of soy hull, that might cause ferocious pinning along the top because the substrate is just so divided in there. And perhaps if you actually mix that substrate some more, you might have a more even or a better crop. Again, when they're pinning in the fruiting room, sometimes poor pinning could be because there might be a massive block or a massive chunk of perhaps soy hull there, and all the hardwood's at the back of the bag, and it's got to transport all that nutrient through that soy hull to get to the front to where the pins are. An experiment for another day, perhaps, but I'm getting upwards of 1 kilo on average per block. I already kind of knew that. I already knew that if I want to go 30 kilos a week, I need at least 30 bags going into my fruiting room every week. Of note, yesterday I took 22.635 kilos of mushrooms to my market, and I came home with about 2.6. So that's around 20 kilo of mushrooms I was able to move at that market.